Welcome. NTD Good Morning starts now.
Here are today's top stories. As the shutdown continues, President Trump says he won't be extorted by Democrats, urging them to reopen the government. Trump also speaking on global flashpoints, including Nigeria and Ukraine.
The Trump administration says payments of food aid benefits might continue by Wednesday. NTD's Arian Pazdar will bring us more on that, and the Treasury's effort to continue the food stamp program, as well as to reopen the government.
The president says the U.S. will control up to half the global chip market within 2 years, keeping its AI edge over China. More from his interview on 60 Minutes.
And Tuesday is the first major election day during President Trump's second term. What to watch this week in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City?
Thousands of runners hit the streets of New York City yesterday, taking part in the 2025 New York City Marathon. From start to finish, some runners shared their experiences and their tips.
How do you teach children critical thinking? A new book aims to do just that, and we're going to be speaking with the clinical psychologist who wrote the book about the art of thinking critically in the world today.
This is NTD Good Morning, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here are Stephanie Cox and Carrie Dunst.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Today is Monday, November 3rd. You're watching NTD Good Morning. In today's top news, a busy weekend for President Trump, addressing the government shutdown and weighing in on conflicts overseas. Trump spoke yesterday to reporters on Air Force One on a wide range of issues. Here are the details.
President Trump is increasing pressure on Democrats to end the weeks-long government shutdown, blaming them for the Senate's stalemate. As the shutdown continues, millions of Americans are starting to lose access to food assistance. When asked if he's directing his administration to move around funds so SNAP benefits can continue, Trump called on Democrats to, in his words, open up the country.
Well, it's a much easier situation than that. If they vote to open the country and it's open up immediately, we don't even have to think about that.
The president doubled down in a CBS 60 Minutes interview that aired yesterday, saying he won't be extorted by Democrats seeking to extend Obamacare subsidies before reopening the government. Trump also took to social media, once again urging the Senate to scrap the filibuster, a tactic used to delay or block votes by keeping the debate running as long as possible. Unless at least 60 senators vote to move forward, a filibuster can stall most bills. He said getting rid of it will allow Republicans to pass what he called all their common sense policies. However, Republican leaders have dismissed the proposal, arguing the 60-vote threshold is essential and has historically helped them block Democratic initiatives when they were in the minority. The president also made headlines over the weekend for comments suggesting possible U.S. military action in Nigeria. He said the U.S. could deploy troops to stop what he called the killing of large number of Christians.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Nigeria's government said on Sunday it would welcome U.S. help in fighting Islamist insurgents as long as its territorial integrity is respected. Meanwhile, aboard Air Force One, Trump ruled out providing Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles. It comes after weeks of speculation, with Trump saying he was considering the option. On Sunday, though, he said such a move could escalate tensions with Russia. When asked if there was a final straw that would show Russia isn't willing to end the war, Trump said both sides may simply need to, in his words, fight it out.
The Trump administration says SNAP food benefits might continue by Wednesday. Yesterday, a court ordered the administration to continue the payments, pointing to irreparable harm without the benefits. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the latest.
The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, known as SNAP or food stamps, are meant to help low-income Americans. A federal court in Rhode Island on Saturday ordered the Trump administration to resume full food stamp payments by Monday or partial payments by Wednesday. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that payments might resume by Wednesday, but he's also calling on Democratic senators to join Republican colleagues in passing a continuing resolution and reopen the government.
There's a process that has to be followed, so we got to figure out what the process is. President Trump wants to make sure that people get their food benefits.
So it could be done by Wednesday?
Could be. Okay, could be. And 5 Democratic senators could cross the aisle and open the government by Wednesday.
The House already passed a continuing resolution a few weeks ago, but the Senate has not been able to make progress. All Republicans and 3 Democrats have voted in support of the CR, but it needs 5 more Democrats to join in order for it to pass. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is one of the 3 Democrats who supports the bill, as he explained on Sunday.
Fundamentally, I'm deeply distressing to know that 42 million Americans are going to lose their SNAP benefits. And now that's one of the big reasons why I refuse to shutting our government down. And again, I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown.
Some Americans who rely on SNAP benefits are now having a hard time trying to make ends meet.
Now we have to choose either to feed ourselves or to pay the bills.
Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Meanwhile, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins says investigators have uncovered massive fraud in the nation's food stamp program. Rollins says thousands of dead people and ineligible people are still getting benefits.
In a Fox News interview, Rollins called SNAP a broken and corrupt program after benefits lapsed over the weekend. She said 21 states refused to share their data on whether illegal immigrants were receiving benefits, but that's after investigators still found widespread abuse in the states that cooperated with the data sharing.
And are everyday Americans concerned that the SNAP program could potentially run out of funds? NTD's Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from the people.
Are you concerned about SNAP programs running out of money soon?
No, I think it actually maybe should be a wake-up call for people that they need to go do something to provide for themselves because the government is not always going to be able to provide for them.
Well, food stamps are affecting the poorest of the poor and the most needy people, and over 40% or something, or 50% are children? Let's give it a break already. Let's cut it out and take care of the people.
People in my family, like, cousins, stuff like that, they're affected by it. So, it is like a concerning matter, but of course it's something that can be solved.
Yeah, I'm concerned, but I think we also need to look at that program and really find out who the people are who need it. I know something about this. I teach in a prison, so a lot of my students come from families that are highly dependent on these programs, but with able-bodied parents who could work but choose to sort of, milk the system, and that happens with all whites, blacks, yellows, and browns. It's just a program that we need, I think, to manage better.
I know that this country was founded by guys that came over in a boat with a shovel and an axe. And if you didn't work, you didn't earn, you didn't pay your way through, you just didn't make it. By having handouts and programs like that, we all want to protect the needy. We want to have that safety net for them. But it breeds people taking advantage of it, and more they expand it and expand it and expand it to where it just doesn't make sense now.
Are you concerned about the potential fallout since 1 in every 8 Americans rely on food stamps?
Potential fallout can be disastrous to the neediest people in our society.
I mean, yeah, of course, because, it affects more than just personal families. It affects people who aren't on food stamps as well because, when people need things, they're going to go get them regardless of, how they get it.
I'm concerned about people not understanding why they're not getting their SNAP benefits. You and I both know they're not getting it because we need 5 more Democrat votes. They're not told that's the reason. For our mainstream media isn't exactly telling them the truth on this issue, so they're angry.
Yeah, I think that's something to be concerned about. But again, maybe if they turn the government back on and did fund it, and then, let's look into it and see if we can manage the system better. But certainly, yeah, I'm concerned about my fellow Americans. I think we all should be.
We have generous hearts as Americans. We aren't going to let our people suffer. And so, no, I'm not concerned at all. I think it's an opportunity for them to realize they need to go take care of themselves and stop being dependent on other people.
As we enter the 3rd day of the SNAP benefits being cut for approximately 42 million Americans, or roughly 12% of the population, let's bring on Chani Ritchie for analysis. She's the founder of Independence Gardens, a nonprofit that provides schools and communities with access to fresh food. Chani, thank you for joining. Can you offer some context on the importance of the SNAP program for what you see in your nonprofit and your experience in the food industry?
So what we're seeing here on the ground are those individuals that utilize the SNAP benefits really run the gamut. And a lot of them are and the poverty level is less than 130%. So on average, they make roughly $30,000 a year. And a lot of them are disabled that are caring for young children. So those individuals that are typically on the SNAP benefits or utilize those benefits are individuals that really need it. And so, and when these are not dispersed on time, it really impacts it. And what we're also seeing, because of the furlough on the shutdown of the government, you're going to have more individuals looking for additional help. And so it is going to couple itself, and it's really going to be a mess here in the next few days if we don't get the government open.
Absolutely. And who to hold accountable for how we got here is very much in the eye of the beholder. So putting that aside, what are the best prospects that you see to move forward with the immediate issue of, as you put it, funding the program and potentially helping an expanded group of people who might be now looking for assistance?
So what we're seeing are a lot of states and a lot of municipalities are really coming forward to helping their citizens in their own states and in their own cities. But those funding isn't infinite, right? And so they're going to run out in the next few days. And what we're seeing is, and I like to kind of say that hunger doesn't know any politics. It's Republicans, Democrats, or somewhere in between. Red and blue states are really suffering because of the SNAP benefits. And what we're hearing on the ground is people are angry, and people are scared that with the holidays coming on as well, is that they're not going to have any food to feed their families and their children. And so what they're really telling us is that we sent our representatives to DC, to Congress, to the Senate, to be able to really take care of us as Americans. And what they're trying to do is they're really trying to ask them, and some begging them to find some common ground, because we need to really realize that the impact and the decisions that's being made in DC is impacting day-to-day Americans.
Now, Chani, if there's any silver lining at all, which there might not be, but with food access having this moment in the spotlight, can you tell us a bit about the work that your nonprofit's doing?
So Independence Gardens provides fresh food access in schools to kids. And so what we really do is we highlight it on the school end. And why we do that is schools are the heart of communities. So we do it through hydroponic towers, cooking programs, and outdoor spaces. We have kids in those schools learn where their food comes from and the importance of that. So they actually grow their own food. So in that case, then families can go to their schools and basically bring home fresh food, and it doesn't cost them anything. It's really addresses those needs that, let's take away the conversation of food deserts. And so if you have food being grown at your school specifically, then any family can just go within their schools to bring home that fresh food. And so for Independence Gardens, it's one overall mission is to ensure fresh food access to all, and it really impacts how they perform, not only perform, but also their overall health.
And for our viewers, you can look up Independence Gardens on the internet, easily search for her website, and if you are able to help now more than ever would be a fantastic time to do so. Now, Chani, obviously you have invested your life's work into fresh food access. We heard in the earlier package that many people want to reevaluate SNAP, and as well as with this MAHA movement, to take a look at not just SNAP, but other aspects of the food supply chain. You're focused on fresh foods. Some people want to remove the ability for SNAP recipients to buy sodas and ultra-processed foods. So, when we think of our country as the wealthiest, but having the highest instances of nutrition-related problems, such as obesity, what recommendations do you have for society at large when it comes to food and the role that the government should or shouldn't play in the food supply?
At the end of the day, we really need to reevaluate where our food comes from. And so we got here because of the wealth that we experienced in the early 40s and 50s, and really trying to really figure out how we can feed the population. But what's happened is that we've kind of our food has evolved in this capacity where it's easy. It's easy to go get at the grocery store. It's easy to manufacture, and we haven't really looked at the impact on the overall health. And so what we really tell parents at the end of the day is that take those small incremental steps. If your child is eating chips or cereal or sodas overnight, taking it away overnight isn't going to solve the problem. And so those small incremental steps that Independence Gardens has, when we teach them where their food comes from, the value of understanding where their food comes from, and they really understand it at a younger age, and they're more apt to make healthier food choices as they grow. And then they take it home to their parents, and they teach their parents how and why they're making those choices. So it's a generational education that we really have to address. And so while I understand that there is this movement to just take everything away, sometimes when you do something abruptly and disrupt the system, it may not work as well as you think it will work.
Well, there's never been a better time to take a closer look at food and its role in society, especially with children. Again, I encourage our audience to look up Independence Gardens and support the work of Chani Ritchie, the founder of that nonprofit. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And next, severe staffing shortages due to the shutdown are causing widespread flight delays across the country.
That's right. Newark Liberty International reported ground delays of more than 3 hours over the weekend.
Officials say delays at Newark are rippling through New York's other major airports, JFK and LaGuardia, creating a domino effect across the East Coast. The Federal Aviation Administration says nearly half of the country's 30 busiest airports are reporting shortages of air traffic controllers.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says controllers are working without pay. He told CBS yesterday, safety comes first, even if it means more cancellations. More than 13,000 controllers and 50,000 TSA officers have now missed multiple paychecks. And the Trump administration says some have started taking second jobs to stay afloat. Airlines and union leaders are urging Congress to end the shutdown, warning that continued shortages make the skies less safe.
Welcome back. A federal judge has extended her order blocking President Trump from deploying National Guard troops into Portland.
Judge Karine Immergitt ruled yesterday claims of violence in Portland were exaggerated and that protests were largely contained.
She found the administration likely violated federal law and Oregon's state sovereignty by invoking rebellion powers without justification. And tomorrow is the first major election day during President Trump's second term.
Heated races in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York City will test the popularity of Republicans and the ideology of democratic socialism. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more.
In New York, Democrats have chosen Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani to face former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's running as an independent.
I will not be the mayor that we have today who went on national television and opened the door to civil immigration enforcement. I will be the mayor that stands up for our sanctuary city policies, that stands up.
New Yorkers are concerned. You have this Democratic Socialist. What does it mean to have New York being run by a person who favors socialist economic policies? Public safety is a very big issue. I want to add police. He has been very anti-NYPD. And then you have...
The race will test the popularity of socialist ideology among Democratic voters. Democrats were hesitant to endorse Mamdani, and House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries refused to acknowledge Mamdani as the future of the party.
Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country.
The two New York Democrats are challenged by Republican Curtis Sliwa, leader of the Guardian Angels, who built his campaign on law and order.
You cannot allow people not to pay the fare. Zohran Mamdani is fantasy, which when reality hits, he's not going to be able to do it. And by the way, it's the state that has to do that, not the mayor in the city of New York.
Across the river in New Jersey, voters will elect a new governor to replace the Democratic incumbent, whose term is limited. A close race shaping up between Democrat Mikey Sherrill and Republican Jack Citarelli.
My opponent's not from New Jersey. She hasn't been here all that long. And what little time she's been here, she's been 6 years in Congress, and somehow, some way, tripled her net worth. How about we elect the Jersey guy?
I have a different kind of background, military service. I'm a mom of 4 kids. I'm focused on driving down costs. I have a plan to take this as the emergency it is, the crisis that it is.
And a term-limited Republican governor is set to be replaced in Virginia. The state's current Republican Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Earl Sears, is facing former Congressman Abigail Spanberger.
But the takeaway for me is that politics is in everything. For her, in her name, for the rest of us, in everything. In the schools our kids attend, in the educational opportunities that exist, in the health care that we do or don't have, in the prescriptions we can or can't afford.
That she's going to tax you more. Believe her. That's what her party does. Always the Democrats will tax you more. We don't have to look any.
Polling shows the Democrat leading by a wide margin several days before the general election. Virginia has a history of electing the party opposite to the sitting president. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And to break down tomorrow's key elections, I spoke with Angie Wong. She's a Miami GOP committeewoman and a Republican strategist. I asked her what political strategies appear to be resonating with voter sentiment and what her expected outcome is. Have a look.
I don't know if there was political strategy other than for Zohran Mamdani. I mean, we're reporters, and we've been looking for both Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo to give us something, right? We want to help also campaign. As a Republican strategist, I want to be able to help those candidates, although there wasn't much of a fight. And what I'm looking at for the autopsy of 2025 is, where was the New York GOP in all of this, right? We allowed this to happen. There was very little support. I was actually quite surprised to see, or rather not see, President Trump, J.D. Vance, or other leading Republicans going to the ground and helping these candidates in various states get out the vote, where we've seen Barack Obama. We even saw Bill Clinton come out and try to help out their team. So that was a really interesting thing. Zohran Mamdani, he ran a great campaign. I will say that even as a Republican. I've never seen social media done as well as I saw his team do it. They really played around with the algorithms. They knew exactly what to put out there to get maximum coverage. He is certainly showing both the Democratic Party as well as some Republicans here how campaigns are won.
The New Jersey race happening, squeezed right between Philly and Manhattan. You got the Garden State. What do you expect happening there? Perhaps more of a classic election where you do have just one side versus the other. Potentially, this is a different way to look at what might unfold in the midterms.
Yeah, I'm actually very positive when it comes to New Jersey. I've been watching Jack Ciattarelli campaign for over 2 years now, and he wants this bad. And one thing that I liked, I spoke with his team last week. Internally, they have numbers up for him by 3 points. They have him winning by 3 points, but only if Ocean and Monmouth County comes out and turns out the vote. And I think those 2 counties are going to determine this race. Unfortunately, one of them, I believe, is Andy Kim's, congressional member Andy Kim's district. So he's out there turning out the vote, obviously, for the Democrat. This is going to be a really tight one. This is going to be the race to watch for me tomorrow. This is not predetermined, whereas New York and Virginia might be.
The Jersey Shore, they're gonna be the difference maker. Love that. Now let's go to Virginia. What do you expect there?
Yes, Virginia. I love Winsome Sears. I think she's a fantastic candidate. She's certainly just such a role model for Republican women. Right now, the very best poll that I see her at is, well, down 4 points, which she could make up. But, you know, for the majority, most of the polls coming out, she's down by double digits. It's going to be a really, really hard sell. I know Glenn Youngkin has been out with her for the last few days, if not months, campaigning for her, really wanting to get her, his girl in. And I love the energy that she's pulling. But Abigail Spanberger, they own the northeastern part of Virginia. Now, that is where most of the government shutdown is being affected. A lot of federal workers there not getting paid, and they believe, and that's my prediction, they believe that if they vote Democrat, that the government will reopen again.
Yeah, Virginia, in a very interesting state, sitting there right in the Beltway, but also having that rural element that touches into Appalachia. Now, as we finish up, Angie, I just want to get what you think these 3 elections mean for the greater midterm elections. If certain things happen, does that, in your view, signify, X versus Y? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm watching this very carefully because I run midterm candidates, and I'm looking at whether or not the messaging is there or whether or not we have to pivot. So what is working in this election? Well, we're basically saying in New York City that a 34-year-old with no experience in government management and hasn't passed any bills, he can be the New York City mayor. So it's all about vibes. It's all about marketing. It's all about social media strategy. It's also about, the fact of, living in cities is completely unattainable and unaffordable at this point for many, many Americans. And I think that is something that we have to address because he is able to say those things, even though he knows the state legislature cannot deliver all the free stuff that he wants to campaign on. It's just not happening. It's not viable. But the messaging works on voters. So we have to look at that. We have to also understand is this a referendum on the Trump administration? Is this a reaction to everything that Trump has done? Does President Trump and his team, should they take a moment and maybe pivot from some of these things? Maybe all of the Trump policies are not a one-size-fits-all for Americans. And if we're going to be losing voters because of it, we have to really take a pause and wonder, how do we either win back the messaging on this or pivot from some of the policies that are currently that voters are voting against? And I think that's what is going to take place. The midterms, they're right. Basically, they start on Wednesday, right? As soon as these elections are over. So I'll certainly be working with my candidates and trying to make sure that, they are on the right side of this, that they support President Trump as well as listen to voters and what the American public wants.
Yes. Could it be the chicken or the egg? Or is Mamdani potentially just taking Trump's playbook and applying it to a much more focused, concentrated area? There's a lot to look out for. Very exciting. Appreciate you sharing your analysis with us, and good luck, Angie Wong.
Thank you.
Make sure you tune in tomorrow, November 4th at 7 p.m. to get the latest election results with live analysis from our data reporters and on-the-ground teams. NTD Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer will bring you our special coverage of all the biggest races, from New York's mayoral election to the gubernatorial races in New Jersey and Virginia. That's tomorrow, November 4th, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, only here on NTD. Don't miss it. Advanced chips, the China threat, and the new U.S.-China trade deal. Those were among the key topics in President Trump's wide-ranging interview with CBS 60 Minutes, which aired last night.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has the key takeaways, as well as comments from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's calling for the U.S. to de-risk from China.
In an interview on 60 Minutes, President Trump commented on whether he would allow chipmaker Nvidia to sell their most advanced chips to China.
We will let them deal with Nvidia, but not in terms of the most advanced. The most advanced, we will not let anybody have them other than the United States.
Because then they would win the AI race.
Well, they wouldn't win it necessarily, but they would certainly have an equal advantage. Right now, we're winning it because we're producing electricity like never before by allowing the companies to make their own electricity, which was my idea.
Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang last week expressed hope that his company will be able to sell its advanced Blackwell chips in China at some point.
I hope so. I hope so. But that's a decision for President Trump to make.
Trump predicts the U.S. will have 40 or 50% of the chip market within 2 years.
The biggest companies are leaving Taiwan. They're coming into the United States because of tariffs.
Trump provided perspective on China infiltrating parts of the American power grid, water systems, and buying American farmland.
We're a threat to them, too. Many of the things that you say, we do to them. Look, this is a very competitive world, especially when it comes to China and the U.S., and we're always watching them, and they're always watching us. In the meantime, I think we get along very well, and I think I think we can be bigger, better, and stronger by working with them as opposed to just knocking them out.
In an interview with CNN, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the Chinese moves on rare earth restrictions are part of a plan they've been putting together for 25-30 years.
And the U.S. has been asleep at the switch, and now this administration, we're going to go at warp speed over the next 1-2 years, and we're going to get out from under the this sword that the Chinese have over us, and they have it over the whole world.
Bessent says the U.S. has rallied the allies, so Western and Asian democracies and India are going to join the U.S. in trying to form their own supply chains.
We don't want to decouple from China, but we need to de-risk. They've shown themselves to be an unreliable partner in many areas.
And finally, the White House says China will stop investigations into U.S. firms in the semiconductor supply chain and will begin issuing new export licenses for rare earths and other high-tech minerals. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And one man is now in custody after a violent knife attack on board a train in central England. UK police say 11 people were hospitalized after Saturday's attack. Here are the details.
A 32-year-old British man is the sole suspect accused of a mass stabbing on a train in England. That's after another man arrested in the case was released on Sunday with no charges. The 35-year-old man who had been arrested earlier was released after officers concluded he was not involved in the attack. Superintendent John Lovelace spoke for the British Transport Police.
And counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident.
Lovelace said police were still trying to establish a motive for the attack. Eyewitness video, verified by Reuters, showed people fleeing Huntingdon Station on Saturday night. That's where the train made an emergency stop while on its way to London, some 80 miles to the south. The attack had put 11 people in hospital, with some fighting for their lives. Police said 5 had been discharged by late Sunday after treatment. Among those still being treated was a member of the train crew who tried to stop the attack. Prime Minister Keir Starmer called it an appalling incident that was deeply concerning. Knife crime in England and Wales has risen 87% over the past decade. Official figures show there were nearly 54,600 offences last year, a 2% rise from 2023 and among the highest rates in Europe. In a statement, Interior Minister Shabana Mahmood said she was deeply saddened, while urging people to avoid speculation about the incident. The government is keen to stop rumours spreading on social media following a 2024 stabbing attack in Southport, when internet claims over the murder of 3 young girls sparked days of rioting across the country.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. I'm Stephanie Cox. A new children's book aims to train young minds in critical thinking. Written by a clinical psychologist, the illustrated book, Let's Be Critical Thinkers, has a wide array of high-profile endorsements, and last week it sold out on Amazon on its very first day on the platform. Joining us now is the book's author, Dr. Shannon Kroner. Good to have you with us, Doctor. The book references pandemic policies, which impacted reading-age children very much. How important is it to teach children critical thinking today?
Oh, it's extremely important. I mean, children, they need to know how to think critically about the world around them, especially with so much propaganda that we're faced with every day. And children need to feel empowered enough to be able to speak up and, have thoughts of their own and ask questions and not feel shamed or bullied into being smaller or keeping their thoughts to themselves. And, we need to really teach children to be free thinkers.
And there has been a battle over policies relating to critical theory in higher education and even in workplaces today. How do you see the state of critical thinking throughout the education system and even among the broader population?
Well, unfortunately, children are not being taught critical thinking in school. They're being taught to, memorize, this rote memorization. This is how things are. This is what you need to know. And really not to ask questions. There is no real debate anymore in school. And we saw this throughout the pandemic with, everybody kind of just falling in line, put on your mask, get your mandated vaccine, stay 6 feet apart. Those who really kind of just followed in line didn't ask questions. They didn't think about, this 6-foot rule. It was so arbitrary. Why would germs stop at 6 feet? And so, I used the pandemic policies that we were all inundated with and put that into a book to teach children, one, to never let it happen again, because we really can never let something like that, those lockdowns, children who were removed from school for so long, and we can't allow that to ever happen again. But two, children need to know, how to ask questions, what questions to ask, how to spot propaganda, what propaganda is, and really importantly, they need to know what informed consent is, because we saw zero informed consent throughout the pandemic.
And with such an impactful experience throughout the pandemic on so many children, I'm sure there are parents out there really wondering how to instill these values and this capacity of critical thinking in their children. How does this book approach the teaching of those skills?
So the main character, it is a children's book and it's beautifully illustrated. And the main character, her name is Darlene Data, and she really kind of shows the reader what questions to ask in approaching the world around them. And she also takes, kind of picks apart all these different policies. She does the research and really asks the questions to the reader. She doesn't say, masks work or masks don't work. She shows the research in a very child-friendly way and then asks the reader, do you think that masks worked based on this research? And I've also included some really cute and fun activities in the back of the book. I think it's really important for children to know how to do their own research. We live in a world today where, now we have AI at our fingertips. So many more children are using AI to complete school assignments. And they're losing that critical thought. They're losing that imagination. Children are becoming intellectually lazy. And so I've included these activities in the back of the book to help children really kind of on their journey in research. And so they can do their research using these activities on really anything. It doesn't need to be related to the pandemic, but I've given them a great outline to then make photocopies of and use on their own.
Yeah, such an interesting point there. I mean, AI is the studies are bearing this out, of course, that kids are really being impacted and their thinking, perhaps long-term, may even be impacted in their ability to think critically. But it's also affecting the workforce even today. Just this last week, we heard of major workforce layoffs, including at Amazon and UPS, and those partially impacted by AI. How much do you think this could impact the future employment landscape for children, this AI phenomenon?
Well, I believe it's a very slippery slope. And, right now we're seeing that the more use of AI, the less people are thinking on their own. AI is kind of taking over. It's like you said, it's taking over a lot of jobs. I have children of my own. I tell them all the time, you're going to have to figure out what kind of job you want in the future that AI cannot replace. But when it comes to actual thinking and children within school, if they're given a research paper to do, they don't need to even put any critical thought into that anymore. All they have to do is, type in what the topic is. They can say, I'm a 8th grader who, is doing a research paper on such and such. Write it as if you are an 8th grader and give me the resources. And now, a child doesn't need to do any thinking into what their paper is. They've got a beautiful paper. It's written from the perspective of an 8th grader. They have all their resources. They've never even had to figure out how to find resources, and they can turn that in and get an A+, and they haven't learned anything. And so I think it's very scary, the future of AI, but it's also really impacting critical thought in today's world.
Well, critical thinking, of course, has been a fixation of humankind since the ancients, but maintaining that thread of wisdom through teaching the youth today is such an important thing to do. Where can people find your book, Let's Be Critical Thinkers?
So the book is on any major book-selling website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many others. And it just came out last week. And like you said earlier, is that it did sell out on the first week, but books are now back in stock.
Great to hear. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Shannon Kroner. Good to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
And coming up, thousands of runners hit the streets of New York City yesterday, taking part in the 2025 New York City Marathon. From start to finish, some runners shared their experience and their running tips. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. Every year, runners from around the world come to New York City to take part in its famous 26.2-mile race.
That's right. NTD's Sean Marshall spoke with some of the runners before the big event yesterday to get some of their stories.
The New York City Marathon, a race so serious that most just hope to make it to the finish line. Before the race, runners were at the Marathon Expo presented by New Balance to register, buy gear, get info, and enjoy some activities. The place was bursting with all types of energy, with each participant entering the race for different reasons.
4 years ago, I ran through the Central Park, and I decided that that's my biggest dream to run the New York City Marathon.
Oh, it's just been a lifelong goal. It's, I've run probably 4 or 5 marathons, and I always wanted to do the big one.
It's just always been a goal of mine to do a marathon, and the New York Marathon's the best one to do, so I was very excited about it.
Luckily for the crowd and runners, it's all clear skies for the weather on race day. This year, NTD's morning show producer, Chenchi Gao, is racing. Training for a marathon while working a full-time job can't be easy, but people find a way. Many trials and hurdles can get in the way of reaching the finish line.
We have trained many years actually to get here, because it's not easy. This is one of the hardest one actually to qualify.
Yeah, I had a couple of injuries, but the setback is sometimes the breakthrough, so you just have to keep on going and train hard. And I'm very happy to start on Sunday.
No injuries, luckily, but just training in general is tough, so mentally getting through that was probably the biggest hurdle.
The Marathon Expo had a little bit of everything in the world of running and tons of assistance for making it through the race, even for the spectators.
So we're Fit Safe. We believe that women should feel safe while running. So we developed a fitness brand over here that has a lot of pockets. It features safety devices like this so that women can always feel comfortable. We can put them in our pocket here. We have a phone pocket here. And yeah, we're all about running freely and living boldly.
We have a couple of tips for anyone out there thinking about running in a marathon.
Don't overthink it. Just sign up and you'll get yourself through it.
Do it. It's mind over matter, and it's one of the best things that I've ever found in life is being able to get out there on the open road. It's meditative. Marathon running is fantastic.
No injury. Don't give up. Yeah, this is not easy, especially in New York. It's not easy to come here, so we're really glad.
And this year's winners are Helen Obiri of Kenya and Benson Caputo, finishing just 1 second faster than Alexander Matiso. Marcel Hug of Switzerland won the men's wheelchair race, and Susanna Scaroni of the USA won the women's wheelchair race. At the time of this recording, NTD's Chenchi Gao is about 2 hours into the race and close to reaching the halfway point with his racing group. Maybe next year he'll wear an NTD hat and advertise for the company. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
So good. Sean Marshall out there with Cheng-Chi.
That's
Great
right.
report.
And we saw our producer Shuan greeting Cheng-Chi as he was wearing his cape that you wear when you finish the race. You know, the cape kind of has two functions. It looks cool, but also meant to retain that heat because it's pretty brisk here in the early fall, and your body temperature can crash. So you got to make sure you stay warm and stay safe out there.
Beautiful time to be out in Central Park, though.
Indeed, yeah.
All colors.
Beautiful weather for the marathon. You know, and I was curious, apparently you can have no athletic, well, you have to be quite athletic, but you can have no training experience, and within less than a half a year, you can train yourself to run the marathon. It's all about incrementality and slowly building up to it. So if you're watching this package and you're inspired, maybe this is your opportunity to say, next year I'm going to do it.
Half the training is carving space in your schedule to make it happen, but and also the mindset plays into it a lot.
Yeah, mind over matter, right? A lot of that.
Yes. We'll have to ask Chang-Chi for tips. Maybe you can come on next time. All right. Now, a celebrity wedding crasher made one couple's special day. The ceremony featured a Middle-earth theme fit for a hobbit.
And the crasher just so happens to be from the Shire himself. Have a look.
Watch a Hobbit-themed wedding in New Zealand get a dose of star power thanks to a very unexpected wedding crasher. It's been nearly 24 years since the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy took the world by storm after being filmed on location in New Zealand. Part of the production took place at a massive constructed Shire set that's now a popular tourist attraction called Hobbiton, where guests can tour the set, enjoy elaborate feasts, and even host fairy tale-style weddings. That is exactly what was happening when actor Elijah Wood, who happened to be visiting the set, suddenly decided to crash the ceremony. The couple and their guests were suitably starstruck by the Frodo Baggins actor's off-the-cuff cameo and enjoyed a few moments of glad-handing and photos before continuing on with the ceremony. And even though no one thought to ask him to be the ring bearer, hello, it was still a matrimonial Middle-earth movie magic moment that can only be described as precious.
What a great story that was. If you're ever going to allow a wedding crasher, I guess that's the most appropriate time.
Yes, he would know he'd be welcome.
Frodo himself coming in with...
It's a good omen.
Yeah, I guess the ring bearer, that was a pretty clever puzzle, wasn't it?
True. All right. Got to wrap up our show now, but if you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at goodmorning@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, watch us live at ntd.com/live, or you can download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. I'm Carrie Dunst.
I'm Stephanie Cox. See you soon.